pastoral theologian and apologist Rich. So my calling is to challenge the church with God's truth and to contend for the faith that was once for all delivered to the saints. This video topic is about churchaholism and churchianity, and many of you inside the church have not heard of these terms before, and part of that is because of being ingrained in churchaholism and churchianity. So I've been seeing this trend, and it's been hard to put a name to it, but based on the current situation I find myself in, I reflect, and I can see that some of the churches I've been involved with recently and in the past, even with the people that I really love and respect, I cannot help but scratch the surface of a really severe existential problem that Jesus warned us about. And so now I find myself breaking off from being embedded in a churchaholism via cultural churchianity. And it's a painful but necessary process for any follower of Christ. It's actually free to break the chains of the churchaholism culture from the churchaholic churches and individuals. It's very hard to see, but it's not impossible to see. There are actually red flags that warn us along the way. And although there's a blindness in American churchianity, and I'm no expert at addictions, I've done some supervised clinical internships in substance abuse clinics, and I've done some ministry with indigent veterans and in others, and I see some overlapping behaviors, and it's very tragic. It's very tragic. I'm actually very grieved by it, and it's an addiction. It's an addiction guised as something spiritual and something good. And even one recent pastor called this behavior of someone that was doing it, he called this person a super saved Christian. And I thought, what the heck is that? There's no such thing as a super saved Christian. You're either saved or you're not. You're either saved by God's grace or you're not saved by God's grace. You can't earn any super salvation. When God saves you, He saves you to the uttermost. If you're not saved, you're not saved to the uttermost. So there's no such thing as a super saved Christian. It's very, very sad that this topic would even come up. And in these churches, the people are tired. They're burnt out. They're burnt out from their work within the church. So God wants the church body to be a place of rest, to be a place of sanctuary, and yes, to serve the body and to serve the community, to serve both believers and not. But even Jesus said to His disciples, "Come with me to a quiet place and rest." So even He needed to rest. And when Mary and Martha were with Jesus, Jesus told both of them which one was going to be affirmed by Jesus, and it was the one who actually wanted to spend time with Jesus and just sitting at His feet. So we get this tendency in this churchaholic and churchianity environment that we have to serve until we have no ability to serve anymore. And some of these pastors are saying, like I heard one of them on a sermon say that his youth pastor told him to say yes to everything. So that's called boundaryless living. And another pastor had said to me, when I mentioned the book called Boundaries by Cloud, Dr. Cloud, this pastor said, he said, this is the worst book that could ever be given to people in a church. He said, it's only for leaders, but don't give it to people in the church, because then if you give it to them, they will learn to say no to things. And if they learn to say no to things, what he said and he experienced was people wouldn't do anything. And that, he said, ruined his ministry. So now he doesn't let anyone read this book. He won't recommend it. He won't give it. He'll actually tell people not to read it unless they're in a severe, like drug or alcoholic addiction. So when I heard that, it was just a huge red flag to me. And So, um, so these pastors are very ingrained in the system themselves, and are even in denial because you have them as enablers, and when you try to tell them that their flock is part of the system, they deny it. They deny that the system even exists, and that's because they are a churchaholic themselves in the Churchianity system, the larger system, and they're just not either. They have these blinders on, and they're not open, not willing to see. So they're people that follow them are not healthy because they're not healthy. And so you ask, what is a churchaholic? Well, compulsive churchaholic accurately describes a person obsessed with the need to do more and more through church work. Like the workaholic who invests everything in work, avoiding the responsibilities that come with the relationships, the religious addict creates an atmosphere that revolves around church work. Any interpersonal relationships are developed as a result of or a part of service to the organization, church. So what can we do? Well, so having done some internships, studied some psychology, um, I would say motivational interview is going to be one tool that's necessary to bring these folks out where they're right now. A lot of pastors, people are in denial. They're going to be in denial, especially if you confront them with this, that they're in the system. Then the first part one of the first parts is to deny it, and then we want people to come along and have some type of acceptance of what's true, so they can label it and start to grieve and change. And so you have to give a name to it, and you can't be afraid to call it what it is. We live in this PC culture, of course, that you say anything, you offend someone. But the problem is, not saying anything is offensive too, and you're going to offend someone regardless. So, if you're going to offend someone, you might as well offend someone with the truth. Of course, be gentle and respectful. But regardless, even if you're gentle and respectful, you're surely to offend someone, and make someone mad, and gain some enemies. But out of love, you still need to do it. So, I also want to say that there's some warning signs I mentioned, some red flags. One of them that I recently became aware of is you can see some of the trends of behavior. You'll see it on social media. That's one place that Churchaholics really like to express their addiction, and you'll find it because they'll be posting things constantly, bombarding their timeline with things like only about the church. It's all they think about, it's all they talk about. There's nothing wrong with loving your church, but there's more to life than the church. There really is. There's actually a God and a head of the church who is Christ, who is much more important than the body. And yes, he calls us and wants us to take care of the body, to love the body, but he is the utter object that's deserving of our worship, not each other, not the church. And so you'll find these people that, again, I love them, I respect them, but they are really doing themselves and others a disservice, especially when they're pastors, because people are coming to the church to be healthy, not necessarily for self-help, but broken people come to the church, want to be revived by Christ. Well, if they're not meeting Christ in worship, but they're meeting a culture of work-based salvation, they're not going to find rest, and they're not going to be revitalized. They're not going to be able to do much ministry outside of those church walls. They're going to get burnt out. They're going to be tired, and it's not winsome to the culture. It's not. It's just not. And so, like on social media, you'll see some of these pastors with hashtag I love my church. If you scroll down on their wall, what you'll find is not once have they ever hashtagged, I love my God, I love my Savior, I love my Jesus. It's strictly just a trend of I love my church. And then, furthermore, whenever they make a praise report, they praise each other. They praise themselves. They praise their pastors. Or they quote someone who praised them on their wall. And so it's a system of continuous praising of man, being accepted by men. We know what Jesus said about the praise of men. And 2,000 years ago when Jesus was on the earth, we talk about this in sermons and in these churchaholic churches. The Churchaholic churches talks about the scribes and the Pharisees and the chief priests who abused God's laws and God's word. And they added burdens to people. So you have now, 2,000 years later, modern day contemporary churches, pastors that are preaching against these hypocrites, while they themselves doing the same thing in a different way. Yes, no, they may not wear the phylacteries, but the idea was that these people cared more about their titles, more about their outward behavior and the acceptance of people than they did about their relationship and their authentic, genuine relationship with God and how God saw them. And so the rule and the standard was man. They would always wash everything to be clean on the outside. They were addicted. They were addicted to the rules and regulations outside of God's law, but close to connected to it. They would take God's law and make it a religion. But Jesus came to say, my laws have no power over you. They're a guide to tell you where you're going, to lead you to something better, to lead you to God, to show you your need for God, so that you can see your need for something that He's wants to give you, that's salvation, to set you free from chains. You were, yes, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, but good works can take the place of your relationship with God. If you're so busy serving the church, then you're in a Mary and Martha situation. And Jesus says, you know what Jesus says about that. The person who is sitting at my feet has chosen the greatest. So we need to start seeing churchaholism for what it is. And all your preaching from the pulpit is, once you become a Christian, your purpose is to serve the church. And then, when people serve the church, you praise them, you lavish them, you encourage them, so they give more and more and more. And then if they step back, you might say, shame on you. You're a faithful follower of Jesus. Followers of Jesus don't quit. How deceiving. It's very subtle. But you need to be aware. You need to pay attention to these people who have false authority over you. They want you to call them pastors. They don't want you to call them by their first name. There's nothing wrong with the title pastor. It's a good title. It's an honorable title. But remember, the chief priests, they wanted to be called teacher. They wanted to be called with respect and held in a higher esteem than everybody else. A pastor is not called to that. I don't need you to call me pastor. Call me by my first name. You know who I am and what I do. It's a function. Yes, when you introduce someone that's a president of a company, you introduce them by, this is the president, CEO blah, blah, blah. But when you want to talk to them, you don't say every time, President. Now, the President of the United States, people say, Mr. President, Mr. President. Okay, great. It's a cultural thing. We need not take that into the church. You have a pastor, call him by his first name. If he doesn't like it, then you have another red flag to show you that this person might not be leading the right way. They might not qualify for the descriptions of a spiritual leader from the scriptures. So, if he doesn't let you call him by his first name, but he forces you to call him pastor, and do a little more investigating about his leadership, trying to find out what he's all about. If you start confronting your pastor in a loving, gentle, respectful way, and, talking about Churchianity and Churchaholism and the addictions, and they start denying it, then it's another red flag. It's just a proof that what we're dealing with. So beware of believing